shall we have a look at President Donald Trump? He was in Georgia yesterday. There was, as I called it, the biggest sort of reality TV show on wheels, was rolled back into action last night in the early hours of this morning, our time. Donald Trump was taken to a county jail where he was supposed to be humiliated by the local kind of law enforcement officials. He was fingerprinted, he had his mugshot taken. Here's what he had to say afterwards.
I believe this is a very sad day for America. This should never happen. If you challenge an election, you should be able to challenge an election. I thought the election was a rigged election, a stolen election, and I should have every right to do that. As you know, you have many people that you've been watching over the years do the same thing, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Stacey Abrams or many others. When you have that great freedom to challenge, you have to be able to, otherwise you're going to have very dishonest elections. What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. And everybody knows it. I've never had such support.
Donald Trump, he's kind of making a fool of America at the moment, isn't he? Or certainly he's making a fool of those who would like to see him prosecuted in now 4 different states. It's mad.
Well, I don't think he's making a fool of America, but I do think he's making a fool of the criminal justice system, which has been completely weaponized against him.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way anybody can look at the 4 indictments that have come. And by the way, I don't believe they're against the former president.
Right.
They're against Joe Biden's political opponent.
Yeah.
That's when it all started heating up, was after President Trump, former President Trump, announced he would be running last November.
Yeah.
The indictments started coming in.
Right.
And with each one, they just happen to fall, and you can track this on a calendar, one day after really damning news about the Biden family influence peddling comes out. So the timing is...
the timing is suspect, to say the least.
Suspect.
And I mean, I was listening to another commentator talking about some of the indictments. People talk about the number of indictments in this Georgia case, 91. But some of the indictments are plain and simply not really indictments. You know, things like indicting somebody for making a phone call, indicting somebody for organising a meeting, you know, something which is clearly not any kind of illegal act. And you just go, well, just because you've got 91 counts doesn't mean you've got anything. And I was ridiculing it when it first came out because, of course, in Britain, quite rightly, there's a lot of people who don't necessarily understand the judicial system of the US. But to use the RICO statute, which was kind of invented by Rudolph Giuliani to beat the mafia and to beat insider trading in New York against a political figure, is plainly nonsense, isn't it?
Well, completely. And Fannie Willis, who's the county district attorney, right? She's not even on the state.
No.
Is just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And you're right. If you look at all these, you know, it's 91 in total. You know, but you look at the ones in the Georgia, and I think Act 22 says that. He may, on or around January 3rd, 2020, he basically asked people to watch a certain news channel and, you know, said, look at what's going on with the Georgia hearing. So that's telling people to watch a television show. So, no, look, he's been questioning the election since, you know, 2020. And anybody that doesn't believe that he believes he won hasn't been paying attention.
No, exactly. And he just did the same thing last night, because his statement to the press is that he repeats that he doesn't believe that the election was won fairly, and whether you like it or not, and whether you agree with him or not, that's what he believes, and that's what he's saying, and that's what he's still saying.
Of course, and, you know, my personal view, along with some of us at Republicans Overseas UK, is that this is Democratic strategy.
Yeah.
They want to run against Donald Trump in the general election. They think they can beat him. They feel they beat him in 2020. So with each indictment, although it has peaked out the last 2, but his poll numbers continue to climb. We had a fabulous debate the other night, and so we finally got to hear some of the other candidates. But if you do the numbers of, say, the 4 lanes of, you've got Trump, you've got Trump adjacent, you've got the traditional GOP party, kind of like the Reaganites, and then you've got the more liberal angle of the never-Trumpers. So somehow those numbers have to come together to get above the 35,000 of solid Trump supporters.
Right. But the Trump sort of issue really does define the Republican Party, doesn't it? Because you've got people like Christie who will never presumably vote for Trump. They all supposedly had to sign a declaration, though, did they not, before the debate, in which it said that they would endorse anybody who won the nomination, despite whatever would happen to them, including if charges were actually proven and he was convicted. So even though they've said privately that they won't do that, they've signed something that says they will.
Absolutely, and that's part of the reason, of many reasons, that Trump did not want to do that debate, because he said, I'm not signing this,
Right.
you know, I will not necessarily support one of these other guys or women in the case of Nikki Haley. So, yeah, and Chris Christie, who you mentioned, is one of the liberal sort of never-Trumpers. But, yeah, I mean, if Trump becomes the GOP nominee, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be at the head of campaigning for Trump, but he will have to promote him, or at least, you know, say he's okay with it. But
and
again,
it doesn't appear that any of those individuals who were in the Fox debate really could garner enough support to even come close to challenging Trump in terms of getting the Republican nomination. I mean, I remember Chris Christie as the governor in New Jersey, who charged a load of people to drive over the George Washington Bridge in some kind of fake, ridiculous kind of scam, which I'm surprised he's recovered from, frankly, but there we are.
It ended his career there,
it did,
right?
You know, but all these, they also take the moral high ground. You go, well, hang on, what about that scam you ran in New Jersey? But anyway, there we are. But, you know, what do the Democrats think their strategy is then? Do they actually believe that if they manage to somehow, they think, manufacture Trump as the nominee, that they will beat him on what basis?
They will beat him on the basis that about, depending on which poll you look at, 48% of voters say they're independents or they're persuadables. And, you know, you and I look at the nuances of political situations and we read through the indictments and we pay attention, but most people don't have the time to do that. They're just trying to, you know, put food on the table and do a job and look after their kids and their own interests. So I think what the Democrats are betting on is that the independents will just go, you know what, this is too messy. Even if I do believe that the criminal justice system has been weaponized against him, it's not enough. I just want it to go away. 70% of Americans, Democrats or Republicans or independents, do not want to see a rerun of Trump versus Biden.
But if that's what they get, then suddenly they will have to decide, I guess, again. And what we hear is that there's not as many kind of middle-of-the-road voters who will vote for Trump, and so he won't get the vote in the general election that he would have got even in 2020. Is that what your understanding is? I
mean, never say never, right? Anything could happen. My personal view is Biden won't end up being the candidate in 2020.
He'll drop out, yeah.
I think the evidence, the facts that both the House Oversight Committee is building against not only his son Hunter, but against Joe Biden and the influence peddling that's been going on for years, is that dam is going to burst. You're already starting to hear some of the media, even CNN, start to question this. So between that, a lot of people are calling this tragedy in Maui and the way Biden's handled it, his Katrina. You know, and if you remember, that did a lot of damage to President Bush. So, yeah, I think 70% do not want either one of them to...
I mean, it's almost going to be about an election that nobody wants to really have, to vote for somebody that they like the least.
Well, exactly. And I think, you know, we're better than that. Or I'd like to think so.
You should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean that as a personal thing. I love America. My family lived there. I lived there for 10 years. My firstborn child was born there. You know, I just don't like to see it being kind of ripped asunder like this. But hopefully there's a happy ending. There can be. Jennifer, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Good to see you. Thanks so much.
Jennifer Ewing from Republicans Overseas.